You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, we're back for real. This has been a week, okay? I know I say this every podcast episode, but I mean, y'all done seen it. And we're going to talk about it, right? Because that's what we do on this podcast. There's been so much going on in the news. And when you're on the news, like when you're in the news, it's like even more, wild. But listen, when you got to stand for something. I mean, that's just the theme of my career and who I am, but also just the theme of where we are in 2022 as we head into 2023. So, we're on that countdown. Okay. And I'm super excited about some of the things that I've been working on and some surprises along the way. But, we got a lot to get into. So for starters, I mean, right now, I've been really just enjoying my time in Philly. I'm going to Texas. More on that later, but I'll be in Texas for the holidays with Mr. Johnson and my family. We're going to be in Houston and having a good time and catching up with some folks. And I'm really going to enjoy that and be a great vacation for sure. Like, I feel like every time I go out of town, I needed to go out of town. Like, I needed to just, be around a different vibe. And I think, Philly is just so it's just so much going on in the city. And I hit up all the holiday parties. I mean, there was just so many holiday parties this past week. The Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, we had our holiday party. And we also had our election. And I got reelected president, which isn't much of a surprise because I ran unopposed and so did the rest of my board. So we're all going into a great second term that begins at the beginning of 2023. So that was exciting. And just shout out to everyone who, voted for me in the membership. And of course, is just supporting the work that we're doing and continue to do to advocate for Black journalists in the greater Philadelphia region. Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists is the nation's first established association of Black journalists. We, predate other organizations and groups, some of which we'll be talking about in this episode. But we were the first established institution that have done this work. And, we're grateful for being around for nearly 50 years. And so I'm excited about that. The holiday party was dope. We had at Restaurant Alexander, which you already know that place has a sweet, just a sweet part of my entire culinary experience in 2022. The food was incredible. I mean, they really did their thing over there. They have a great executive chef. His name is Montana. And they also have a great sous chef. His name is Jameer. And they're just two Black men just doing their thing. And I just can't get enough of it. We had scallops and shrimp, really prawns. They were actually prawns. And we had duck confit rolls and it was rich. And it was a great open bar. I mean, incredible open bar. We had a real open bar. Let me say it like this. It wasn't like the open bar where you can just get beer, wine, and well drinks. They had us have the open bar with all of the cocktails. So all the cocktails on their menu, it was all the cocktails on their menu that were already there and a couple of special editions. People can get whatever they want off the menu. That was the kind of open bar we had. People went up and was I want this drink. This was a drink called the Tea Time that was incredible. And they were sure. They made it. And they had a lot of bartenders back there, okay, because we had a nice little crowd. And we had about close to 100 people. It was lovely. It was a great old time. So that was fabulous. In addition to that, I've been, doing my own Christmas shopping because, I had to do that. But the funny thing is that the gift that my parents got me had to come a little early because we realized I couldn't take it back with me. So the funny thing is the gift that they bought, they didn't wrap it. And I think they thought that the box that was going to come in was going to be, not revealing. Well, It did. I got a wine cooler, y'all. Yes, they bought me a wine cooler. So you all know that I love, to drink. And I'm all big on wine. Now, for starters, I don't like white wine, right? So I'm not a white wine person at all. And I don't like drinking red wine chilled. What is that? What is that? There's people out here who are really pushing for chilled wine, and I'm just don't like chilled red wine. I don't get it. Like if it's like if it's a sangria, I get that. But just like red wine in general, like why would you drink it chilled? And I've been to some restaurants lately where they've been chilling red wine. It's been coming to me chilled, and so I'm just like, I'm gonna have to put this on the table and let it get to room temperature because I just can't. It's weird. So what I did do is I've used it for sparkling wines, so champagnes, Moscatos, any type of sparkling wines and champagnes. That is what I use it for. And fortunately, I am a champagne connoisseur. So it was not hard for me to put some bottles in there and keep them chilled. And so, I'm having some New Year's celebrations and whatnot, and some friends coming through with some bottles. We're going to put it in the chiller so I don't have to have all this space in the fridge, because that's the thing. Anybody who really like throws events or like hosts parties, like that surface area space in the fridge, you got to have it. Like I have a mini fridge, I have a regular fridge and a mini fridge. The mini fridge was used to store mixers and things for Mr. Johnson, bartender Barry, right? Who, in the beginning when we lived in our last place, the fridge, when he would make cocktails or make, certain things, it would just take up so much space in the fridge. And now that we're actually like cooking for real this time around, like we're really, doing our thing, there's just no room. So the mini fridge that we got during, one of our wedding gifts is what stores a lot of Bartender Barry's mixers and all that kind of stuff. So that was great. What's great about the wine cooler is that now I can get all of these champagne bottles that I've gotten for my birthday and other situations that was taking space in our liquor, little cabinet area. I can now move up space to put some real hard liquor there. It's a lot. It's a lot. These are like first world, like Kardashian type of, what am I going to wear? And this is just, yeah. So, but yeah, it was a very nice gift. And what I keep telling people about gifts, donations, gifts, is that gifts should do two things. Either one, they should give someone something that they really, really want and can utilize and, really be of value. And, shout out to people who gave me Christmas gifts. My homegirl Laura just like, I guess, listened to one of my podcast episodes when I was talking about massages and things, and she got me, it just melted me. She got me a Himalayan sea salt CBD oil hot stone massage from Hand and Stone. Y'all know that's my specialty. And she hooked it all up with one. I was like, what? It was so sweet. It was a nice gift card. And again, gift cards that I use, like, do not give me a gift card to Walmart. Everyone knows my favorite store is CVS. So if you give me a CVS gift card, best believe it's going to be used. But like, stuff like that. Like I remember somebody gave me a Starbucks gift card one time. I was like, what am I going to do with this? So you know what I did with it, y'all? This is like a while back. So whoever did this probably don't even remember. But I went there and what did I get? Because I don't drink coffee. So it was like weird. But first of all, Starbucks is overpriced as hell. So what did I get with it? I got one of those Tazo teas. So that's how you know it was a while back, because I don't even know if they do Tazo tea anymore or whatever. But this was when Starbucks was doing Tazo tea, and they had them in the glass bottles, and they also did them heated. So I got like some Tazo teas, and then I got one of those Christmas cranberry. Now that was good. Whatever that cream cheese cranberry spread thing on, it's like some type of dessert, like a bar, I think they called it, like a lemon bar or whatever, but it had like cream cheese and cranberry pieces or something. That was good. And by the time I did that, I think I had ran over the card. So yeah. But anywho, thoughtful gifts. So like, yeah, gifts that people really, really want, that they want, and it's ready for them to get. And then you get a gift that is something that, a friend would want or appreciate, but they probably wouldn't buy it themselves because it just would be just excessive. So that's what my mom did. My mom got me, a wine cooler. Would I have bought one myself? I mean, unless there was like this ridiculous sale and I stumbled across it, sure. But for someone to get one for me, that made it even better because I was like, hell yeah, this is what I want, right? Like even like the mini fridge. Like I would have not personally bought a mini fridge. Mr. Johnson might have been tempted to because of space, but just it was a necessity, and just for someone to get that was just like dope. So that's how I do gifts personally. Yeah. But no, that was very sweet and very, very kind. So I went to my final restaurant in Philadelphia of the year because I'll be going to Texas this week. So you all listen to this episode right now. If you're like one of the core 200, the first 200 people that listen to the episode, like early before noon, then the next day on Tuesday, I'll be headed out to Texas. But I have not went to any restaurants since this last restaurant. I wrapped it up on a good note. I think I've been to the best restaurant in Philadelphia right now. I know my favorite of my heart is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's be clear. But this restaurant that I just went to, you've probably heard about it and want to know about it. And I'm here to tell you all that it is the shit. Her Place Supper Club that is on around 17th and Sansom. It is a top flight, reservations galore. You have to make reservations. They open it up like on Sundays, but then they have a walk-in situation, I believe once a week. But then they're open, like their hours and days are like consistent, but they're like reservation. You got to grab them before they're gone. But they also have one day where you could just do walkthrough. They have a $75 tasting menu. They're no longer BYOB, by the way, for those who remember them being BYOB. They have a liquor license, and I must say their cocktails and wine are divine. The food, the tasting menu is great because you don't know what you're eating really when you get there. Like it's kind of a surprise. Now you have to tell them if you have dietary issues. I will tell you this, if you're one of these people that are very picky about every little thing, I don't like onions, I don't like chives, I don't like garlic. First of all, how are you flavoring your food if you don't like garlic? I mean, anyway, if you're one of those type of people who are like, don't like a lot of things, this may not be for you. But then again, I'm like, are you really a restaurant, person? Because I just feel like, how do you just eliminate so many essential herbs and spices in your eating? I say this because I went out to a restaurant with a group a while back, and they were just it was just hard to navigate their eating palates because they just did not eat anything. And I was just like, well, how do you cook? How do you cook without, it's just interesting. Like, yeah. So this is a place that I will say that, you got to be open, experiment with your palate. They don't really make major substitutions. What you get is what you get. But I promise you that my experience there was incredible. I mean, they just did things with things that I just never thought was possible. The food is very, just well prepared, fresh. Everything is fresh. They're really big on seasonal cooking, which I was impressed with, where everything that they got were from like local farms and areas, and the herbs and ingredients that they use are for the season and the interest. So right now, me, learning a lot of great things. Apparently lettuce is like really good right now, like in season, like certain lettuce are really good in season. And I think they were talking about like carrots are too, like there's a natural sweetness with the season that makes carrots taste a certain way. It was just very interesting, but they have a real great grasp on like just food and horticulture and a lot of the understanding of growing and gardening. And it was, again, I was just blown away by their education on it, but also how that influences what they cook. Like everything at her place has rhyme and reason. And I like that. I like when chefs can explain their vision, and it also makes sense on an environmental standpoint. It's very sustainable, but also on a culinary journey and path. What I like about it is that everything they made and how they made it, I couldn't cook it at home, right? Or I could, but it would just be time. Like when you go to a restaurant, I feel like, sometimes you just want some good comfort food, right? You just want to go get some fried chicken and just sit down and eat. But if you're really going to, in this day and age with this recession, if you're going to spend some real money, right? And to be honest, I thought it was pretty reasonable, right? A lot of these top restaurants want to, they're charging 150 per person. This was 75 per person, which is really reasonable for a restaurant at that level to charge. So I just really appreciated that. And there was all types of surprises and other additions that you can get. I don't want to give away. I mean, first of all, every menu was different. I put it on Instagram what I had, but a cool thing happened, right? So the executive chef, her name is Amanda Schulman, and I didn't realize how young she is. And I didn't realize that we knew each other. So I went to the restaurant and just wanted to try it and taste it. And, I'm like, oh, this lady, she's cool. She's nice. And she comes up to me. She's like, you're Ernest. And I know someone, who was that? Gio, Josh, Jamarcus, Amanda, you're Ernest. That is like literally the thing that happens sometimes when I go out, and they'll be like, here it comes. They know when it comes to, because it'll be hey, are you Ernest? Are you Ernest? And it's just, they know what's about to happen. So she sees me and she's like, hey, you're Ernest. And then and I'm like, yeah, hi. She's like, we're fellow Quakers. I'm like, we are? And she's like, yeah. Did you used to run for like student government when everyone would vote for you? I'm like, yeah, that was me. So she knew me. So she's class of 2015. I'm class of 2014. And Mr. Johnson, of course, was there, and we were all together having dinner. And I was just like, wow, like, it's a small world. I'm like, you got a restaurant, girl? Like, you doing it. You got a great restaurant, right? Like, all great. Like, look, listen, the Quakers are killing it. So she was great, and it was cool. We took a selfie, and it was just cool. Like, I just like, wow, like, look at that. Like, all of us in our own worlds doing what we love, yeah, you just never know where people are going to land and how you're going to land, and the way the world works in that kind of way. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, that we were all in the same place at one point studying, and here I am going to her restaurant, having this level to influence and provide press for someone. And we're all schoolmates in some type of way. So that's Penn for you. That's college. That's life. That's Philly, right? So it was great. It was a great experience, a great restaurant. I highly recommend it. 10/10. It is the best restaurant I went to this year. It's the first time I went, but I was blown away. I just recommend people who like to eat food to go. I will tell you in advance, this is more of a date or a bestie friend situation. I mean, there were like one table for 3 people. There was a table for 4, but most of the eating and dining were like 2. Like two duos. It's a small restaurant. It's a very small, intimate restaurant. So I would just say that if you do plan to go with, a partner, a lover, a best friend. If you can snag that 4-person, table, try to get it if you can. I saw a table for 3, roll that dice if you can pull that off. But just really, plan that. I know they do larger parties, but you got to make sure you're upfront with that and get your coins together as well. But yeah, it was just a great restaurant. I cannot. It was my final Philadelphia restaurant of 2022, and it did not disappoint at all. I was blown away, and I was happy I was able to go. And you all seem to really love it on social media. So shout out to the lovers of the food and the situation. It was super dope. So yeah, as far as cooking over here on my end, the grand finale of It's Not a Restaurant, It's My House. I cooked the final meal of the year in this weekly culinary journey. So you all have been following this every week. Myself and Mr. Johnson, we alternate every week between our cooking, and these last 2 weeks. So last week and this week was our final round with our friends who came over for the dinner. It was it's a small, tight, intimate group, and it's the grand finale. So this grand finale, I cooked 2 French chickens, whole chickens, okay? 2 whole chickens. They were both around 4 to 5 pounds a piece, because it was about, we had it was 4 hungry men and Amanda. Um, so so I made this, um, and the process to cooking this was, listen, they were blown away, because there was some people out there in the text blogs talking about, how was I going to, show up and show out when, people were searing duck, and they were just like, how was I going to top that? Yeah, I heard about the chats about how I was going to top that when he was doing the sear. Well, I definitely did what I need to do. So let me tell you, okay, while Mr. Johnson was making duck breast, I gave the girls 2 whole chickens. Okay, so how I did this meal, how I made this meal, was that I followed a recipe on Bon Appetit, which is this no-fails chicken garlic lemon recipe, which is outstanding, an incredible process. But I had to add my little taste to it. So what I did was I went to Whole Foods, got the best, organic chicken, whole chickens, grass-fed, all that, the best of the best. Got 2 of them because, again, it was 4 hungry men and Amanda. So what I did was I got these 2. I created a brine. Okay, let me tell y'all something. Brining chicken, pork chops. I'm all about marinating and brining. Sometimes people like the marinade, sometimes I like brine. When you're doing a whole turkey, a whole chicken or fowl, brining is better to me than marinating. Now, if you have individual pieces like a chicken breast, chicken wings or something, now marinating in that situation, I think is better. But when you have a whole duck or a whole, piece, then I recommend brining. And there's various ways to brine, but it's all about salt and herbs and water, right? And then, throw some garlic and some lemon slices or orange slices or bay leaves or parsley or both or thyme, right? I did all of that. And peppercorns. Oh, don't forget the peppercorns. So I made a brine for both. I had to get some really big plastic bags for both. I did not brine them together. I had separate brines that I had to make for both in both containers and everything. So I did that for 24 hours, took those birds out, got them real dry. You got to pat them dry, okay? I melted a half a stick of butter for both. So let me be clear. Everything I'm saying about these recipes, you got to do them. If you're going to do 2 birds for big crowds, I recommend that because, people are hungry. But if you do just 1, just know that everything I'm telling you about the 1 is you got to do 2 times if you want to follow this recipe. So for this bird, I melted it. Once I took it out, 24 hours out the brine and, dried it, I had to get it super dry. I have to pat it down. Paper towels, y'all. Get the paper towels and pat the bird down. After I did that, I put the oven on, I think it was like 425 or something like that. Let me be accurate on that because, y'all don't want y'all here undercooking or overcooking your bird because you can do that. Okay, I've had many dried chickens, okay? So let me make sure I let y'all know exactly what the temperature is because I don't want anybody getting in trouble. So what I would say is that you need to, first of all, you need to preheat the oven because a lot of you all, I know that someone will say, duh. Let me just say this real quick. Preheat your oven. 425 degrees is what you need to preheat your oven. And you need to arrange a rack in the center of your oven, okay? So let me just say that real quick. So let me just break down this recipe. And this is from Bon Appetit, but I also brined my duck and I want to add my little additional feedback on the process. So first of all, like I said before, you need to make sure you preheat your oven to 425 degrees. There are some people I know out here, and first of all, you need to be preheating your air fryers, and you need to be preheating your George Foreman grills and all those appliances before you put the food down. There are some people out here, no shade to men, a lot of men are doing this, where you are literally putting the oven on and then putting the food in the oven. That is why your food don't come out tasting right. It's not fully cooked or it's something off about the cooking, okay? Or what happens is, you cook it like that, and then you have to cook it longer because you didn't realize that the 15, 20 minutes, when you take it out the oven, you're like, why does it still feel like it's not fully cooked? You think something's wrong with your oven. No, there's something wrong with you. You need to preheat the oven first and get that oven hot. Now, most modern ovens will have a timer to let you know. But in the event, to be safe, I would say preheat the oven for 30 minutes. It will get at that temperature after 30 minutes. It'd probably be a little bit shorter, but we don't want to play, okay? Especially my black people. We don't play with undercooked food. If you don't have a timer or there's no timer on the oven that preheats, like my oven, if I put it on the timer, it lets me know when it's at that temperature. Now, air fryers do that already. Some air fryers do that already. But the rule of thumb with air fryers is about, I've heard 10 minutes, but to be safe, let's just say 15, just to be safe. We don't ever want to underestimate. If you have an air fryer, preheat it to 15 minutes at that temperature. If you have a George Foreman grill, they have an automatic timer. But what I would say to my people with air fryers, you need to preheat that thing. That thing needs to be hot and ready before you put your food in there. Okay? Just being clear. Now with the oven, preheat it to 425 degrees. Of course, this is, traditional Celsius in America. If it's, Fahrenheit, whatever. If you're in a different country, you know the difference. Okay? Cut the lemons and, get a lemon and cut it in half, take out the seeds, and then get a garlic, a raw, fresh garlic, okay? And you want to cut that in half. You want a head of garlic. Let me be clear, 1 head of garlic. Cut that in half crosswise. If it falls apart a little bit, you don't got to sweat it. Don't fret over that. So just put that on the side. You also need to melt 1 stick of butter and then put it in a saucepan. You can microwave it. You can do what you want to do, however you want to melt it, but put it in a little container on the side so you can just have it there. Okay, so you need to have your lemons and your garlic on the side. Now with this duck that I was talking about, you want to pat that thing dry. Okay, so after you brined it, you want to pat that thing dry. And after you do that, you want to get a knife and you want to definitely, you want to have the chicken breast side facing up and you want the legs pointing towards you. For some of you all, you know what that means. This is like, if you have a sex life, you know what I'm talking about. You want the breast in your face or for some of us, the chest in your face. And you want to be able to have those legs and things pointed to you. So this would be how I would describe the chicken should be missionary style. And then you need to get a sharp knife. And you need to slice through the areas of the skin connecting to the leg and the breast, about, 3 inches long. I mean, not long, but the incision needs to be long, but let me keep it appropriate. Then you want to cut downward until you hit that joint when it connects to the thigh of the body. And then you need to stop because you don't want to take the leg away from the chicken yet. You just want to cut alongside so you can open it up. And I'm going to tell you why this is very different from the way that you probably have cooked turkeys or chickens and things in different ways. But this is very specific to this recipe. So then after that, you need to put some salt and pepper and some seasoning salt, some poultry seasoning. Now, this menu is kind of probably by a white person. They just said salt and pepper. Baby, we don't do that over here. If you want to put a little bit of onion, a little bit of onion powder, a little garlic powder, you want to put some kosher salt, some fresh cracked pepper, some poultry seasoning, some sea salt. Season that bird all around and make sure you put it in the cavity too. Y'all be forgetting to put season in the cavity. It needs to be all over. You need to get that thing real seasoned, okay? You need to season it so well that I need to see the dots on the skin, okay? If I can't see the dots on the skin of the specks of the seasoning and spices, you didn't season it well. Now, this recipe says salt and pepper. I'm Black, so I'm recommending you to do whatever seasonings you want. I found there's a place where there's a seasoning called Mrs. Dash. There's Laurie's. There's seasoned salt from Morton's. Just season it, okay? Season your meat. So after you do that, they don't say this in a recipe, but I'm going to tell you what I did. Now, with that cavity, some of you all know this, that when you get a turkey, right, you put some stuff in there. So with this chicken, I, put some garlic, some peeled garlic cloves in there. I put some rosemary, not rosemary, let me take that back. I put some thyme swigs in there. Let me tell you why I didn't do rosemary. Because one thing about, I love cooking with rosemary. Rosemary smells good. But the issue with rosemary, when you do things like chickens and things like that, is that those stems, so those leaves start to fall in there, and it's hard to take those leaves out. So I recommend thyme. I recommend parsley. I cut some lemon slices in there. You know, I put some garlic cloves in there. And of course, I made sure I seasoned the cavity, of course, with some seasonings inside. So that's what I did. I didn't do rosemary. I was tempted, but I was like, nah. And I mean, some people put butter in there. I didn't put butter in there. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So after you do that, right? After you do the seasoning portion, because that's important, right? You want to put the bird in a cast iron skillet. Now, this is why I told you you cut those legs, right? Because you're not using the traditional pan. You're going to put this in a crock pot. And let me also add that your bird needs to be around 3 to 4 pounds. You don't want to go super big on the bird. I mean, when you get to 5 pounds, unless you got a big ass cast iron skillet, I recommend making the bird about 4 pounds, 4.5 pounds. You don't really want to go past that because you want the chicken to fit in the cast iron skillet. So you put, you grease the cast iron skillet, of course, with a little bit of oil, whatever at the bottom. And then you put the duck there. I'm not the duck. You put the bird there, and then you put those lemon slices, face down, cut side face down, and the garlic that I told you about. You put that around the bird. I'm going to tell you why you need to do that in a minute. So that butter, remember that butter I told you to get? You need to pour all that melted butter all over the bird. Now, all over the surface level. We don't care about the bottom level. The bottom of the bird, we care about that facing portion, which again is breast face up. You need to pour all of that butter down there. You need to put all that butter down there and let it all get over. So, because that's what's going to give it that beautiful brown golden goodness that makes it come out the oven, okay? So then after that, you put that chicken in there and you check for doneness after 45 minutes. Now, for people that want to check, you need to remove from the skillet. The handle is hot, so make sure you have your gloves. And you need to poke a knife into the leg joints, and then you need to pierce the meat. Now, if that juice run clear, the chicken is done. If you see a rosy pink color, yeah, you need some more time. You need to continue roasting every 5 minutes until those juices clear. If you're not sure, I would say just use the knife to shred some of the meat along the thigh bone. That meat should look opaque, and the fibers should separate easily, okay? If it's not doing that, we got a problem. But to be honest, it should be, you should check for dryness after 45 minutes. Leave it alone. Just let it do its thing for 45 minutes. If you still have a problem after 45 minutes, then that should be a thing. Personally, I would just, I did 50 minutes to be safe. If you have a really good oven, that should be fine. If you did everything I said, it should be fine. And if you brine your meat, that also helps with the cooking process. So this recipe didn't talk about brining meat. They just went straight full throttle raw. We didn't raw dog over here. We brine the meat, and brining does help with the cooking process. So if you do brine the chicken beforehand, you don't really need to worry too much about whether 45 minutes is more than enough time. It should be enough time, to be honest. After you do that, you need to take the chicken out, and you need to let the chicken rest for at least 15 minutes before carving. Let me tell y'all this. Some of y'all, I've seen it. When you make steaks and you cook, I see some of your Instagram videos. Y'all take this food out and start cutting. And then y'all get mad when stuff starts to splurt and splat. You got to let the meat rest, baby. Let the pork chops rest. Anytime you're doing some heavy cooking, grilling, roasting, you got to let the meat rest. So you need to let it rest for at least 15 minutes. I normally let it rest for like about a good 20, 25. Because to be honest, the meat's not going to get that cold. It was under so much heat and scrutiny that it's not going to get cold like that, y'all. The heat is real. You got to rest, because let me tell you why you got to let the meat rest. You got to let the juices in the meat settle. And it will also get down to the temperature that's cool enough for you to handle with your bare hands when you carve. Because if you take it out, your hands are burning and all that. You don't want to do that. So you need to let it rest a little bit so that the juices and everything like kind of, penetrate and moisturize and texturize the food. So you got to let it rest. And then after you let it rest and you do your carving, now it's for the fun part. Remember that lemon I told you about, that garlic? That garlic, okay, so what you do is you can take that lemon, and with that butter that drip down, and that's the pan juices. You can use that you can tilt that garlic and that lemon and squeeze it on the chicken, and you can use the pan juices as a sauce. And oh my God, that was like the best thing. They tore it up. And if you got some good bread, like some baguettes of bread, it's phenomenal. So here's what I did as my sides. When you're doing a chicken that good, and you a bad bitch, and you made a chicken that good, you know, you don't have to do too much with the sides. So I made roasted fingerling potatoes, and I used the duck fat that my husband used to cook his seared duck, right? When people talk about searing and all that. I took that duck fat and I saved it and, refrigerated and saved it. And I cooked those fingerling potatoes in that duck fat and roasted those potatoes. It was phenomenal. Then I made a salad. I made a beautiful, good, gracious side salad with a really good vinaigrette. Go to Whole Foods, go to some good farmers markets and experiment with great vinaigrettes with fresh herbs. You can make your own. I recommend that too. But if you can find a great place that has a really good quality salad dressing, this one was, definitely a little pricier than normal. It was about $8 now, for my hidden farms and my hidden garden girls and, my wishbone folks that like it. Listen, however you like to do it, it's your thing. But I really wanted to have a really good quality salad dressing. And then for the bread, I had garlic bread, fresh bread from Whole Foods I got, and it had the garlic butter and everything, and I just put that in the oven and let it do its thing. And so I served it with that, and the people were here for it, okay? We had great wine to complement the occasion, and they ate it up, child. They had a good time, okay? We had a time last night. Dessert was great. I had these great mousses that I also got. This ricotta cheesecake, nice portions in a jar. It was delicious and divine. And then, of course, Bartender Barry made these incredible holiday cocktails, Cosmo. Some of y'all bought those candy cane Cosmos from his website. So shout out to y'all and thank y'all for supporting his business, Black owned, right? So he had candy cane Cosmo, and then he had the Gold Digger. But it was a great drink that includes whiskey and turmeric and all these spices, and they just had it. We have become great dinner hosts. We just know how to cook dinner hosts, and we have great dinner guests, right? They bring wine and love and good times, and good vibes. So it was fabulous. Dinner was fabulous, and so I think I won. But to be clear, I think we both won. So some of y'all have been following both myself and Mr. Johnson's cooking on my Instagram. Let me say this. Mr. Johnson is the Beyonce of this situation. He likes to really be experimental and go above and beyond, and he takes risks. And his food is incredible, right? I am the Bruno Mars of cooking. I'm going to give you familiar food with a kick, with a little bit of splash. And so that's what I bring. And so I kind of win the folks over. I'm like the damn, I'm the coda of the film industry, where I'm the heartfelt, sentimental. You like, but what about the epic Odyssey films? And I come and give you something that's just heartfelt and touching, and it woos you over. That's how I cook. I cook with that, like, I know what you like, and I'm going to give it to you really, really good. And it's going to be done so well that you're going to love it. And I think that's what Bruno Mars do for people. Like, Bruno Mars will give you songs that's like, this is simple melodies, these are simple lyrics, but yet he does it so well that you're just captivated by it. Personally, musically, I'm not that impressed, but I get why people like him. I get what he does, right? He has a system that if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's kind of how I cook. I cook things that are very familiar and very comforting, and I add my level of elegance and excellence to it, that even when you're eating it, you're like, but it's still chicken, but it ain't chicken like how I made it, right? That's kind of like Bruno Mars. It's like, it's old school remix music, but it got that little element of special sauce to it that you can't forget it, right? That's how I cook. So yeah, they I wooed them over. Okay, you know what I'm saying? That's what I did. I pulled out that familiar element. Kind of like what Adele does, right? Like, people love them some Adele, right? Adele don't be singing anything provocative or anything that's really deft. But because of how well she sings and just how good the music is, you just feel like you're transporting to the universe. Sometimes brilliant basic is great. She's brilliantly basic. And that's nothing wrong with that. You can make brilliantly basic is a thing, y'all, right? Like, Adele is brilliantly basic. Her music and her songs are basic, but they're brilliantly done. And if you're brilliantly done at doing it, it's great. So, you got Black excellence, you got brilliantly basic. My cooking is brilliantly basic, but it's done phenomenal. Yes, I'm dragging myself. I ain't dragging myself. I think that's a compliment. Y'all gonna run with this. I better see y'all on Twitter and Facebook. Y'all gonna say, oh, look at him throwing shots. No, brilliantly basic is a thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's what you want. Okay? Sometimes that's what you just want. Sometimes you just want to sit down and have something brilliantly basic. I'm trying to figure out what's brilliantly basic in my life that I eat. Oh, I'm gonna say, am I throwing shots at? Okay, so I'll give you an example of a brilliantly basic restaurant that I just went to recently. Bud in Maryland's. Me and my friend Manny, we had celebrated, the election victories we had, and we just had a little best friends dinner at Bud in Maryland's recently. And they had this tasting menu. It was called I think it was called Buckets and Bubbles or something like that. So it was like chicken. They had their chicken, their signature fried chicken, and then they had a bottle of champagne for two. And we ate the chicken, and we had the sides, and then we had the champagne. And listen, y'all, it was basic, right? A bucket of, some good fried chicken and the trimmings with some champagne. But Bud in Maryland is brilliantly basic. And so it didn't feel like, a basic experience because it was brilliantly basic. So Bud in Maryland is a brilliantly basic restaurant, but it does what it needs to do. So enough about cooking and eating, but I just wanted to just get that off my chest. It's nothing wrong with being brilliantly basic. Okay, sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes all that experimental be going over your head. That's how you get a Frank Ocean. But let me not throw shade. Okay, so moving along. Temple safety. I have a piece coming out this week talking about. I'm a big brother of a Temple Owl. My younger brother. My little brother. One of my little brothers. I'm the oldest, proud oldest. We're gonna catch up in Houston. He's there for the holidays. He's there till MLK Day, which is like a month. It's wild. He's there for a minute, y'all. And he's done his finals and everything like that, feeling good about this sophomore semester there. And he, couldn't go to my supper to see, that anti-Ernest sentiment on cooking is real. Inside joke. So anyway, Temple has been just having been in the news lately with a lot of issues around crime in the area. And I want to say as a Penn student, I'm not saying that campus, I want to be clear that I'm not trying to frame North Philly as being this wild, wild west of violence because, this happens on any campus. Campus safety is real everywhere. As a USC alum, even though I didn't, live on campus at USC to get my master's degree in communication management, I still got the campus alerts, right, in LA. They was giving me the alerts of what was going on campus. And every campus has issues, right? And safety issues and stuff. That's just real. But the way that Temple has been going about it has not just sit well with me. As a big brother of a Temple Owl, I think about him a lot because I get these text message alerts and something's always going down. It's a shooting. It's an armed robbery attempt. It's a bunch of things going on. And I'm just thinking to myself, as his local guardian here, where is, the response from Temple has just kind of been weird. And the students are rising up over there. There was a survey that was published in the Temple News that said about 89% of Temple students, and a survey of roughly 470 students did this survey, which is a lot. They said about 89 students said that they did not feel safe. They did not think that the university's response has been good. And then about half of them, split evenly, basically felt that they would consider transferring if the public safety issue from the university didn't get better. So my brother is not considering transferring, because I'm here. He has support. But I think about a lot of these kids who are going to Temple who don't have a big brother like me, who don't have siblings or family in the area. That could make them feel like maybe this isn't the best option. There has been things going on near campus. It's a lot. And, Jason Wingard, who was Temple's first Black president, I think he's a good leader. I think he's a good leader overall. I think he's good for Temple. There's been a lot of Black presidents coming around. There's a Black president over at Harvard now for the first time, a Black woman who's the president of Harvard. And, of course, in the Ivy League, Brown had their first Black woman president years ago. But Harvard now has a Black woman as their president. So that's kind of super dope. Maybe when I go to the book tour, I can, quiet. Okay, so, I don't have any problem with him as a leader. I just want to be clear about that. However, recently, because of all the press and the students speaking out, he made the bold attempt to move his wife and his son. They're going to move to North Philly and live in a home near the campus. And they plan to do this to send a message loud and clear that they need to be visible, and that the campus president needs to be visible. And that's very true. And that's a great symbolic gesture. It's cute. However, that symbolic gesture does not override or really specifically address the consistent concerns that is happening over there at Temple with public safety. Now, as the big brother turned journalist, I have to do a lot more. I've had to do a lot more digging to figure out what's going on over there. Like when I get these campus alerts, I'm like, okay, let me, before the university tell me, let me hit up one of my reporter friends who covers these incidents. What's the scoop? What's really going on down there? That's one thing. The other thing I'll ask too, outside of that, is I'll say to people, things like, I'll look on what the campus is doing. There is this wonderful Instagram that I heard about. It's called @keep_us_safe_tu. Let me say it again, @keep_us_safe_tu. That Instagram page has been around, and I've been following it. And basically, this is like a student-led page that have gotten together to really put together this page that is basically a comprehensive guide to crime occurrences on or near the Temple campus. And they've been stepping up, even with an open letter, basically telling the university president in part that, he's been silent for months. They said that over 30 students have been victims of high-profile violent crimes this semester, and he's continued to hide from it. And they said that, they have come dangerously close to having another student be murdered this year on multiple occasions. And until a student is actually seriously hurt, you won't address the problem. They're tired of it. They're tired of it. And it's been a problem. So the university responded and said, quote, "The significance of an open letter like this from the very students that the university serves is not lost on us. To help address this, the Office of the President has met with the Temple student government and will be scheduling meetings with both TSG members and other members of the student body in the near future." So that's what they're saying. But, I decided to write this op-ed, this opinion piece, to just let it be known that as, someone whose sibling goes there, they need to step up. And if I can use my platform to support those students on demanding more, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm about. And so I'm really hope that, beyond this symbolic gesture, they do. And let me be clear about Penn, right? When I was on Penn's campus, I never felt unsafe in the West Philly community. I actually I felt more unsafe by the actual law enforcement that was on campus. Because, I have experience being stopped and frisked and profiled as a Black man on Penn's campus. And so I was never, the way that Penn communicated public safety, the interesting thing is that it never made me scared of the community I was in. I never had been robbed. I'm not saying the incidents never happened on campus, but I never felt unsafe, on Penn's campus. By the community at large. I think the issue here is that they have not communicated a way effectively to stop students from feeling afraid of the North Philly community. Like, I didn't feel that way when it was at Penn with the West Philly community, right? And so the truth of the matter is that, like, even with Amy Gutman lived in the president's mansion, right? Her living in the president's mansion did not make me feel any more or less safe about West Philadelphia. What it was how Penn communicated these issues and the way that they seemed to be responsive to certain situations, right? Now, they weren't perfect because clearly there was other issues with how they went about safety when it came to Black students on campus, right? That ain't cool. But overall, I think there was just better messaging, and I don't think that's happening with Temple right now. So I just hope they get better. My brother's not leaving because I didn't leave, and we're here with him and he's here with us. And, we gonna get through this. So in other news, we're going to talk about this. My organization, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, which I'm the proud president of, our executive board, and myself made a really big decision to succeed from the National Association of Black Journalists. You know, we were a chapter within the National Association of Black Journalists, but after several instances of incompetence, neglect, and negligence from their leadership, we had zero confidence in them, and we decided to exit. The great Brexit of this all. So, you know, people have been asking questions. There's been a lot of press releases. There's been a lot of the blogs are talking, people are talking shit in group chats that they don't think I know about. It's been a lot of interesting reactions to this. But what I will say is that it's been overwhelmingly positive. My local chapter members, the majority of them who have reached out in support and understanding, because we've been very responsive and communicative to them about this entire situation. Nationwide, a lot of Black journalists and people who have been following, my work and my advocacy in Philadelphia respected our decision, supported it, and really is looking at it as serving as the blueprint for people who have disapproval of the current state of the relationship between NABJ and its chapters. So let me, I'm going to break this down because I know people are going to have all these questions, and I know that I'm going to have all the answers, and I want to speak in my own voice and tell my own version and tell my own story, because I think sometimes what happens is that when you're going up against Goliath, people forget that the David is a part of the story too. So let me break this all down for structural purposes. The National Association of Black Journalists was founded in 1975 by members that included people from Philadelphia. Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists was founded officially in 1974, even though they convened and gathered in 73. So we predate the National Association of Black Journalists. In 1975, this gathering of Black journalists from Philadelphia, from DC, and others met in Washington, DC, actually last week around that time in December, early December of 1975, met in Washington, DC. It was over 40 of them, and they gathered and basically formed the National Association of Black Journalists. They sat there and said, look, we want to create this group. So basically, the National Association of Black Journalists is supposed to advocate for journalists across the country. They have several chapters across the country from different cities, right? Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit, Philadelphia, used to be formerly Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York, LA, different places, right? So really what is structurally there, what's supposed to happen is that, they and all represent us, right? They advocate on behalf of diversity, equity, inclusion issues in newsrooms. They provide career development, scholarship opportunities for the youth. They have student chapters that they are over, and all of that. That's the beautiful thing, right? And they've been doing this strong for over 40 years. So I just want to lay this groundwork. But unlike national organizations and chapters and other entities, the National Association of Black Journalists does not actually own any of the chapters that are under them. So what I mean by own is that all of these chapters have to have their own bonding, and many of them and most of them have their own 501c3 statuses that are uniquely aligned with whatever state or commonwealth they live in America. The National Association of Black Journalists does not fiscally sponsor or fund these chapters. They do not. We do not have a fiscal partnership or sponsorship with them. They do not have any of those ties to us in those ways. The relationship is basically agreed upon through a joint audit and affiliation that they have set standards on in order to be in affiliation with them. So the affiliation is what these chapters and these nonprofits agree to, right? That's the most important part. So we want to be, the key is here to understand this situation is that the whole purpose and primary purpose of this is that these groups opt into affiliation. It's a choice. They don't have to do it. Let's be clear that the Association of Black Journalists, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, right? We chose to be in affiliation with NABJ based on the standards of this audit. Now, this audit is what NABJ gives all of these chapters and these other individual nonprofits. And basically there is agreed upon standards that if you agree to that and they agree to it, then you become affiliated. And with the affiliation, there's an idea that being affiliated with the National Association of Black Journalists will heighten the profile of your organization, right? It will allow for there to be continuity within national NABJ members, within local NABJ chapters, right? So there'll be some continuity where if you are an NABJ member, you will have the national affiliation yourself, and then you will have a home base to gather along in your city with those individuals who are, I guess, likewise members. So that's the ideal concept. And for many decades, PABJ, complied with that. But recently there was changes in the audit, in the expectations and requests of the nonprofits that really rubbed us the wrong way. And when we started looking at some of these rules or these guidelines, red flags began to appear. So this is the truth. This is what happened. And I'm going to tell you what happened, because I'm at a point where I have to just break my silence, and just let it be known, because I know there's a lot of people that's listening to this podcast right now. Y'all being nosy, and it's good. You should, listen. We want people to be educated, but I'm going to tell the truth and what really happened. And I'm going to name names because I think that's also important, because I just have to just be clear about what happened. So last year, a year ago, in December of 2021, this was the first year of my presidency as PABJ president. So as PABJ president, I have, every chapter president, every organization president is responsible with helping with the board to put out an audit. So in my first year as president, it's the end of the year, the audit was due to be an affiliation with NABJ. I, reached out and had some inquiry. I reached out to the national office, the president, the executive director, national president, her name is Dorothy Tucker. The executive director is named Drew Berry. Veronique Dodson is the administrative lead there. My Region 1 director from the national organization, her name is Bree. And, this is a group of people that, I've known, for different reasons, I reached out because I had some concerns, So I reached out to my Region 1 director. Her name was Bree Jackson. And, said, hey, I'm interested in doing this audit, but I had some concerns about the request for contact information. I felt like this contact information request seemed to be a little bit of an overstep or overreach. Like, okay, are you all asking for phone numbers and emails of all of my members? I don't feel comfortable disclosing that, because there were members of my organization, of our independent 501c3 that self-funds itself. We had concerns about people's personal information going to the national organization if they were not affiliated already. So in other words, there are members in the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists that are not members of the National Association of Black Journalists, and they don't have to be. Our nonprofit does not require members to be a part of other organizations in order to be a part of ours. Like, if you pay dues to be a PABJ member, then you are a PABJ member and those are your dues, and that is it. Now, to be a member of our organization, we request them to give us contact information so that we can be able to reach out to them, right? And we, secure that information. Now, in this situation, NABJ was asking for the information of all of our members, including those who are not members of their organization. And that raised a red flag with some of our members who did not want their information going to a third party, AKA third party being NABJ or any other group. So it's one thing to say, I can give you a list of the names of my members, or maybe, some information about where they work, but to give an email address of any nature, that's an overreach, right? Because we are seeing in this day and age that third party
information going to a third party can provide a liability and a risk. Now, it's one thing that when these members joined and they gave their information to me or the organization, if there was a breach or something, that was a risk and liability they would take. I mean, we haven't had any breaches or leakings or anything like that, but people understand that when you do a one-to-one direct service situation. But when you start taking people's information and giving it to other groups, and even if those groups may say, hey, look, we're not going to use your information to spam or do anything corrupt, it still poses an additional liability, because what happens if the national office gets hacked? What if, somebody from the national office decides to take this information and do what they want with it? It's not safe. It's not what my members collectively want. And it's also not something that we're obligated to do as nonprofit leaders for our respective organization. So those were the concerns that I brought up initially, that, hey, we have some concerns about these email addresses. And I brought up other concerns about financial information and all that. But one major point was about the email addresses. So at that time, Dorothy Tucker, who is the president, when I asked her about the membership roster, in an email verbatim, and I have receipts. So if any of these people want to lie and say this did not happen, trust me, I have the emails, I have the receipts, and I do not mind disclosing this, because I will not be lied about, I will not be slandered, I will not be defamed in this way, right? Because I'm stating facts. Dorothy Tucker included emails as one of the requests in the membership roster in December of 2021. So when she said that, I said to her that, we cannot do this. I cannot submit this audit with this information. And then Drew Berry, the executive director, in an email in that back and forth, had implied that we wouldn't be in affiliation if we was refusing to submit the audit as such. And so then I pushed back and said, okay, so if we don't submit these emails, does this mean that we're not going to be able to be affiliated or associated with the organization? So it was getting heated, right? There was some real strong language being used at the time. So I didn't really hear any response back. I remember reaching out to Bree on the phone, called her and told the regional one director, hey, I just have some concerns about this. I just would like some clarity. Dorothy Tucker had called me, via phone and told me about this membership grant that she wanted to give. It was like a little micro grant that she wanted to give. And it wasn't a permanent grant or any major money. I think it was like $2,000. And she just was like, hey, we're going to offer this to chapters on the condition that they do the audit. So, and they had it was like a deadline. So if I didn't do it by the end of the year, then I wouldn't qualify. And I just told her, like, listen, with this policy in place, I can't, we're not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to submit this audit if it's going to request me to submit these emails. So in January, I sent out a memo and reached out to the membership, and we had a meeting in January of 2022. So that was in January. And I told the members what was going on. I said, listen, we're having an issue with compliance in doing this audit because the audit's asking us to send the information like email addresses. And the members were just like floored by this. Like, what emails? We've never had to submit email addresses. In the past presidents told me that they never gave email addresses to the national organization. And there's other chapters that have not submitted emails in recent years in order to be in compliance in affiliation with NABJ. So we just thought it was weird that why was our chapter being asked to submit emails but other chapters weren't? It just seemed to be a problem. So rather than directly address this, after I sent countless emails asking for our PABJ executive board, our leadership team, to meet with their board to discuss this, they kept snubbing us. They did not respond to our request for meetings. They just sent us a letter that they end up sending out to what they call PABJ stakeholders. Our stakeholders is what they claimed, that it was a letter going to PABJ stakeholders, and it went to people outside of our executive board. And they basically, it was a letter that was sent with a lot of lies. And I can call them lies because they were lies. They said that our organization was spreading misinformation to chapters about the audit requirements. They said that, every president before us submitted audits, and they put a year when I wasn't the president where they said the 2 back-to-back years when an audit wasn't submitted was under my presidency, that every president before me submitted an audit. Well, that was a lie because I wasn't even the president in 2020, nor was I the president and before, but they put it out like I was the difficult child. Like they framed it like, oh, Ernest did not submit an audit for 2 years. I hadn't served as president in 2 years, yet they created a timeline where they framed it like I was the only president that did not submit an audit in Philadelphia. So it was a very nasty letter. It was very filled with fallacies. But one issue that stood out to me is that they put in bold and emphasized that the audit does not ask for emails from chapters, of rosters. It does not ask for emails. Y'all, you heard that right. I was gaslighted. I said, wait a minute. You all have sent out this letter saying I don't ask for emails. But literally, the president told me verbatim in the email that it was asked for email addresses. And when I kept trying to ask for clarity, she never gave me clarity. And this could have been a moment where Dorothy Tucker could have said, you know what, my bad, I made a mistake, I misspoke. But she didn't. She actually ran and pushed the narrative to everyone else that we were just spreading misinformation. And the truth of the matter is that the misinformation was given to us by her. And so if we gave misinformation, that should have been information that we got directly from the president. So once this letter went around, it was sent to some of the NABJ founders, such as, Joe Davison. It was sent to some of our longtime PBJ members, such as Mike Days, and other folks that we knew, past presidents, such as Johan Calhoun. But people were getting this letter and they were contacting me, and she was trying to make our board look like we were deliberately lying to our membership. So, we don't play that over here. So February, we had a meeting to raise these issues about concerns we had about compliance and affiliation and what happened. So I showed the membership the letter that was sent and how she lied. I showed images of the emails directly verbatim when she said that the audit and the roster required emails, and how she did a 180 in the letter she sent to stakeholders with executive board, because the letter was written on behalf of the executive board, but she was disseminating it to people in my meetings. Before my meeting in February, there was a past PABJ president that received the letter. So rather than directly call me as a grown adult, email the board, she sent this letter out with all of this misinformation. And mind you, she knew it was misinformation because we had told them where they had us messed up. So rather than, simply nut this in the bud, she kept pushing it, that narrative. We had the meeting in February with the membership meeting. And at the membership meeting, the membership voted, right? And they said that they wanted us to still try to pursue compliance, but basically under the gaze of the emails not being something required of us. So we need to ask for an apology. They told us to ask for an apology on behalf of the organization. The membership voted for us to reach out to the board and ask for an apology and ask for clarity. And we did. We sent a letter to the board on behalf of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists requesting an apology for the letter that had these fallacies and this misinformation. And we was asking for clarity and a final clarification on the audit situation. They never responded back to us. So in March, I had to contact the membership via email, which I did, and told the membership what NABJ had done, that they didn't already talk to us, and that we was moving forward. And basically what that meant was that we weren't going to be in compliance, until further notice, because we just could not get any clarity and we never got the apology. And we just felt like the relationship was beginning to be very contentious and very toxic. So in the summer, I went to National Convention, as you all know. And when I went to National Convention, I patched up some relationships I had with certain people. It's not unknown to people that Walter Smith Randolph, who was the NABJ treasurer, and I used to be really great friends. And we had a falling out when we ran against each other for treasurer. It was a close race. He became the treasurer. He won the race. And our relationship, completely, that election there was just so many people who instigated the drama. And quite frankly, I believe the national president at that time do. Dorothy Tucker hates my guts. That's my opinion. I think this woman has never really liked me because I think, there's so many things. I just don't know, right? It's just a lot of ageism, paternalism, a lot of bitterness. And I think some of it stems from the fact that I didn't endorse her for president when she ran. And I didn't really endorse outwardly any president. Now, personally, I preferred another candidate in the race, but I didn't really go out and endorse any candidate because I was running my own race. And I feel like our relationship changed because before then she had endorsed me for previous positions. She had, we were cool, she's had great children that went to Ivy League schools. One of her daughters went to college with my husband at Penn. We had great communication, and were cool before everything went south. The moment she became national president, she kind of just, went in a different direction, and just the communication and the relationship got really weird. And then we had a falling out during the Millennial Media Summit in 2020 because I was at that time the vice president print for PABJ. And I think that was the breaking point, was that, I told her that, hey, we're working on some summits and some stuff of our own. And she felt like we should have asked NABJ or ran about NABJ. And it was very contentious meeting. She did swear at me. And she definitely was upset. And there were people that was in that room who witnessed it. The current vice president of print, Kathy Chaney, witnessed it. She saw with her own eyes. A past PABJ president saw the heated conversation. We was at Columbia School of Journalism. This is right before the pandemic really took off. And it was a very heated conversation. And the relationship really never moved in a really good direction since then because there was just such a grudge held. Because basically I told her, like, wait a minute, PABJ can do whatever it wants. We are our own 501c3. We don't have to run all of our programs by them or do splits or do money. And she really felt some type of way. Actually, Walter Smith Randolph, who at the time we were cool, we were good friends, he was present during some of that back and forth. And it was some people that saw that. And it was not a good look. And it was just not a good situation. So that's just some background on that relationship. But then moving into where we are now, I mean, so much had happened. But when I went to the National Convention in Vegas, this past summer, I wanted to come there with a mindset of I need to patch up some bad blood with people. So Walter and I, we talked as men. We squashed whatever beefs or bad vibes we had. We shook on it. We followed each other back on social media. I ain't got no problems with that man. I mean, individually. Talked to some other people who were stirring the pot, squashed some of that drama. And I came in with a focus. And so I talked to the vice president of print, Kathy Chaney, and, talked to her about the audit. And she wanted us to be in compliance, And I said, yeah, I'll we're going to do it. I'm going to be, I'm not going to argue over this apology. We're not going to go back and forth. The organization, we don't need to deal with this. We're going to just go and move forward. If you're not asking for emails, then guess what? We'll just move forward, right? So y'all, in this fall, we submitted our audit. Like PABJ, the board, we sent the audit over to them, okay? We sent them, all of our members paid their, our board members had paid their dues. Everybody had, we got our bonding. We sent our bonding over to them so they can know we bonded. We sent an annual report of our activities so they could just know the stuff that we did. We filled out the form, the contact information form, the website, all that stuff, social media, all that stuff we sent over. We sent over, information about our financials. We sent everything over to them. And after some weeding around and some details, descriptions, we even sent them a membership list of our members with their names, And then all of a sudden we get hit back that our audit wasn't complete. There was the parliamentarian of NABJ, her name is Sia. She basically became, over the summer, I guess, or the early fall, NABJ decided to create a revamped membership committee, and she became the chair. And this new group of people assembled this committee, and they basically created new policies in regards to audit. So in the midst of us submitting our audit, these new policies came in place. And the audit now required that we have to send emails, professional emails of all of our members, even if they were not NABJ members, over so that they can verify and make sure that we're in compliance based on the NABJ Constitution. Yes, y'all. After all of that shit, they moved the goalpost. So at first, it was submit the audit without the emails and you be good. Now, they throw this monkey wrench in the mix and be like, you got to send these emails. And once again, I go back to my membership at the meetings. The members are like, no way, Jose, we're not submitting these goddamn emails. In the words of Hillary Clinton haters, or those butter emails though. That's really what I felt like. Like emails, these emails for some reason was the straw that broke the camel's back. So I'm sitting here like, listen, there's gotta be a better way. This cannot be the only way that you all require us to be compliant. Like these emails should not be the hill to die on. Like I was very much over it, y'all. Like I cannot tell you, like we did all this work to get our paperwork together and then they're gonna now try to mandate this. So they threw the Constitution at us and said, well, the Constitution says to I was like, please do not tell me anything about something that I've read forward and backwards. The reality is that the Constitution does not ask for emails. That's a lie, right? They're choosing to interpret verification based on the request of emails. And that is a slippery ass slope. So, this is just not good business, right? So we go to the membership. We bring this up to the membership. We're like, listen, our compliance is now being held in question due to this email situation. So, we thought maybe this is them just telling us this, maybe it's just some backdoor stuff. We can probably figure it out. Later, a month ago, like in November, they sent out a chapter-wide email to chapter presidents and leaders mandating that across the board, everyone must submit these audits with these emails. And they're talking about professional emails. And so professional emails, how they define it is if you are a professional journalist, right, a working journalist, it will be your name and the company you work for. If you are a freelancer, it will be your name and the company that you own. And then if you're an educator, it'll be your name and the school that you're educating a professor at. And if you're like a student journalist, it'd be your name and the college email that you're a student at. Do y'all see the problem with that? Okay. The problem with it, if you're curious, and it may not be obvious, is that for freelancers don't necessarily own their company. Professional working journalists may not be working for a said company as an employee. They could be a contractor, it could be anything else. Freelancers, okay, may not have email addresses to a company owned. So to be clear, the hypocrisy of this is that NABJ as an organization, right, they do not ask for members to submit professional emails in their applications. Do you know how I know? Because myself and many members have always used our Gmail addresses. Why is this the new thing where you're demanding email addresses that are specifically tied to companies? It was just a weird flex. It was really weird to me. And I've never asked my membership to submit professional emails in that type of way. Because the truth of the matter is, if you want to verify someone's a professional journalist, I mean, there's 1,000 different ways. One, you can just use Google. Two, you can use LinkedIn. Three, you can use Mudrack to check, if they're print journalists. I mean, Google's a friend. You can just, if you feel inclined, you can look up, employee rosters. I mean, there's other ways to confirm, but I never felt like I needed to question that deep members. Because in our organization, we do have a membership committee that vet memberships, but we don't demand these things like send us a professional email because we know that people change jobs. So what if you're at one moment unemployed or you got laid off, right? Let's say you got laid off and you're in between journalism jobs. Does that mean that because you're laid off for that temporary period that you're now booted out the organization? Exactly, right? Like what if you change careers, or maybe your company doesn't have an email for you or whatnot in that type of way, but you're doing the work for them. Does that mean that you no longer qualify as a professional working journalist? I just think that some of that language and the expectations are just very archaic and also very elitist and dated, right? So when I saw that, I said, well, then they said that's how they would determine it, because they would say that those emails will determine how eligible you are for NABJ membership. So that's what the Constitution says. Well, I know for a fact that 2/3 of my membership roster, based on them determining eligibility based on those professional emails, do not exist. We do not have 2/3 of our organization that have professional emails sent to us. I mean, even myself, I use, my Gmail address. I don't use my professional email, and I don't feel comfortable giving it, to any of these groups in that way. Because again, that's not a requirement in our chapter or our nonprofit. So I sent a letter, okay? The board, we sent a memo to them. The audit was due this past week. And basically we clarified, once more, that, these that we cannot be in affiliation or compliance with the national organization currently because of these concerns around audits and membership setups and things. I mean, the fact that this is this 2/3 number, all of that just creates unnecessary drama for an organization that does not pay my nonprofit's bills, do not actually fiscally sponsor what we do, and honestly do not provide any sensible liability, management or risk absorption on their part. Legally, there is no authority or obligation for them to do any of this. And so if this was going to be the hill they was going to die on, then we was going to be in an impasse. And because of the fact that we were in that impasse and there was no sense of change, we made it official that we would not be affiliated with NABJ until we have better leadership at the national level. So that's to say that we're not permanently going to leave. But listen, time will tell, right? If there's a better president, which to be clear, Dorothy Tucker will have her term over in the summer of 2023. So this is only a couple of months, y'all. I believe this too shall pass, right? That maybe with new leaders on the board, the national board, sound leadership, reasonable, fair diplomacy, that collectively, if we have that representation, then we can see some of these policies change, right? Drop the email policy. Drop the email policy. Drop that damn email policy. Because to be honest, it's stupid. And it's also creating more problems. I know for a fact that there are other chapters within NABJ that right now have told the national office that they will not submit the audit right now with emails. I want to see what NABJ is going to do with some of these big chapters who may or may not decide to submit these emails. Because I know for a fact that I know all these chapters, if they're big chapters, are not sending rosters with all of the professional emails they're requiring in addition to everything else. I want to see the receipts. I want to see the receipts. You know why? Because even the national organization's board don't even use their professional emails in correspondence to chapters. They got board members right now that don't have a professional email to which they're asking to qualify. So now what? So they didn't think this through. They don't have their shit together. They're creating more problems they need to be. And the petty politics, the personal backdoor dealings, the nasty attitudes, the lack of communication and professional responses. My organization has reached out to NABJ over 5 times for a meeting, and they gave us no response to any of our requests for a meeting. That is how bad it is. That's how bad it is. And so they left me with no other choice. They left this organization's leadership with no other choice but to say, if this is the hill that you all want to die on, then I guess we can't be affiliated right now. So we're not affiliated right now. And it's become a big deal. And honestly, I hope that reform and changes, I hope this is going to inspire people to step up, speak out, and speak up. What's been interesting is that there's been a lot of longtime members and people that some of them I thought were my friends. And I guess the word friend shouldn't be used so loosely, but I thought they were people that meant well for me, that were even close to me in some ways that I thought, right? But when MLK said it best, that the true measure of a man is not in times of, success and good vibes, right? It's in times of controversy. the thing that we don't remember is that the ultimate measure of a man, he said, is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. I think about that quote right now. I think about that, right? Because comfort and convenience is easy. But where you stand at times in challenge and controversy is your true measure. And that is what drove me to be with integrity and really put my foot down and to really, say enough's enough. The national organization put out a response. They put out a statement basically saying that they were, what did they say? They put out a statement saying that, they wish us well. And pretty much we were like surprised because it came from the executive director. But what's so surprising about that statement, right, on this whole wish us well type of thing, is that they did not actually give that communication to their executive board, to their board of directors in total, prior to that statement being released. And there were several board members, because it's plural, that told me that they did not know that statement was going out before it did. That they did not put that statement out because they wanted to figure out how to address this issue. And I guess they was probably internally trying to figure out how to deal with this. And so for them to, for the executive director, I guess, or the president to put this statement out without consulting the rest of the board, that lack of transparency internally should concern all of us. Like these very rash and impulsive decisions, like everything that we do on this board is a collective. We inform our membership at the same time that things go public. We don't keep anyone in the dark. We are accessible as possible. We let people know what's going on. And so I'm personally concerned over there what's happening at NABJ. But people got to learn, right? What I would tell you all about me is that I'm still a member of NABJ as an individual. And I don't discourage any, members of PABJ to individually be NABJ members. Because let's be clear, people are like, what about these benefits, right? Because, President Tucker had said that we will be losing membership benefits. Y'all want to know what the benefits are? I'll tell y'all. So the National Convention has their convention and they, get chapter leaders to really promote and market the convention to our members. And if the members want to go for a discounted rate, it's called a chapter affiliate discount. They are NABJ members. They have to get the chapter discount through affiliation. They have to basically, it's like an early bird special. Like it's like an early discount. It doesn't last throughout the time, like a small window. And they get this discount to the convention, right? That's it. They get that discount. And then outside of that, they, get to be able to, claim affiliation in NABJ, right? For what it's worth. And then our chapter can qualify to be considered for chapter of the year. To be honest, we know under these politics of the national organization that PABJ was never going to, qualify for chapter of the year because a lot of the board don't like us. And the national president, executive director has made it very clear that they don't like me as president, right? So, the black queer millennial guy, right? Y'all see it. Just saying. They don't like me. So we knew that we were never going to qualify, or we were never going to get considered for it, even though we deserved it. So then the other benefit is, I guess, the affiliation, this chapter of the year. Also, they give out these little micro grants. Most of the micro grants they give out around $500. Y'all, $500 for a chapter that has 300 members, where you got to feed people every month, that ain't doing nothing for us. That's a little drop in the bucket. So that's really the bulk of the benefits. The benefits to joining NABJ does not, as a chapter, does not outweigh the headache and the pressure and the scrutiny and the problems that we've dealt with them trying to get affiliated. So that's where we are. I encourage people to be a member. I encourage people to vote in these upcoming elections next year. I encourage people to question the authority and the moves and decisions made by the staff and the board there. I think we have to recognize as dues paying members of NABJ, y'all, we are the true stakeholders, and they cannot keep doing these things in ways that make it difficult for us on an individual level. I mean, this is why a lot of young Black journalists are not voting in these elections or running in these elections often. This is why a lot of people only are super, super excited about NABJ during the convention, but we don't see that enthusiasm carry on into a lot of the other programming outside the convention. I feel like if we did a poll and we asked NABJ members, why do they are members outside of, like, of course, being Black and being a community, the number one reason what drives the traffic is the convention. It's the NABJ's biggest fundraiser. It's their big, huge Super Bowl. It's like the WWE or the WWF. You know how they have WrestleMania? It's like the WrestleMania for Black journalists. It's like the one convention that we all get to go together. And I think a lot of people, do that. And after that, they don't really vote. When you look at these polls, right, of voting, for our membership is like over 3,000 people in NABJ. But when you look at the elections of who gets to vote and who votes, it's very, 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 very low. And even worse, they don't even make their voting eligible to all of its members. So you got professional media professionals don't get to vote for the president, right? Like, they don't get to vote for their VPs. They can only vote for media related rep, right? That's bad. So I just think, and even educators, right? Like, educators, people like me can vote for educators, but educators can't vote for me. But I can vote for educators. Like, that's weird. So I don't know. I just think that we all need to, whatever the case is, the Constitution needs to change. We're going to be in an uphill battle because the National Board has to approve and decide what goes to the ballot, right? And if they see us raising our voices up to make amendment changes to the Constitution, we know that there's going to be some gridlock. They're acting like the damn Republicans of the Supreme Court. Like, they're really going to block amendments in things they potentially can. You know how I know? I made a proposal, y'all, to stop potential conflict of interest dealings with the NABJ. And they basically tabled that thing and killed that thing and dragged that thing for over a year of back and forth debate. And the members never saw the light of day on that proposal. I mean, they killed it, really, y'all. And they wanted to keep tabling it to die the interest. So that's what they do. That's like how the Supreme Court do, right? It's like if you have an issue, right, you don't want people to know about it, right? You keep tabling it so that some board members can fall off that were passionate about it. You keep tabling it so that the membership's interest will wane. You keep tabling it to eventually get to the point where it can get weak, and then you find some arbitrary reason to kill it on sight, and then that's what happens, right? So there's some bad dealings going on over there, some bad politics that don't sit well with me, and I just want to bring it to the public's attention. And rather than get mad and talk about my tone, that's the thing. There's people out here that's like, oh, I don't like the way you say this. That's fine. We'll say it better. Say it better. I hate this I agree with Ernest says, but I don't like the way he said it. Well, if you don't like the way I say it, then say it better. Why do we have to tone police Black queer people? Why do we have to tone police young people? Like, if everybody agrees with what I'm saying or understand what I'm saying and don't like the way I'm saying it, then say it fucking better and see if you get results. Because what you don't know is that for Black men and Black women in society, right, before we raised our voices, before we, talked sarcastically, before we, cursed, best believe there was once a Black person in that body that said everything nicely, wrote everything in cursive, and did everything and dotted their I's and crossed their T's and was still giving their ass to kiss. Okay? I wasn't raised by wolves. I clearly, as a Black queer man, have navigated elite spaces my entire life. I know how to talk. I know how to talk to people. I know how to communicate. But when you get to a point where you feel like you're being gaslighted, when you feel like you're dealing with egos that are being vindictive and manipulative, you're not going to have the most polite, pleasant tone. And so for all the tone policing I'm hearing from people out here, ask yourself this. Have you tried to invoke change at this level within this organization that did not have moments where you was like, fuck this, or this is bullshit? Or did you just back down and stay silent and just stick with the status quo? Ask yourself that before you open your mouth. And to these people in these group chats, these DMs, child, let me tell you something. I am seeing and hearing probably everything. And what's been sad is that there are people who have my phone number, have my email address, know who I am. Some of these people have, take pictures and post me on Instagram and be like, they proud that I'm getting reelected, and take pictures and act like we besties and shit, right? And then turn around and go in group chats and talk shit and act funny and act like they don't really know my intentions and what I'm doing, right? It's the fakeness for me. And there was a time and period this weekend where I thought, oh, maybe I should go have a conversation and talk to this person, talk to this person, talk to that person, say this and say that and clarify this. And then I got to the point where I was like, nah, I'm done feeling like I have to over-explain myself. I'm done feeling like I have to consistently, be everything for everybody. I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to speak my truth, and I'm going to do what needs to be done. And that is what it is. So, period. The end. So, moving along, because that was a lot. But I just felt like, y'all listening to the podcast, y'all need to know what really went down with our succession. This Tory Lanez situation, this trial, it's the people versus Daystar Peterson or Tory Lanez. It is not the people, it is not Tory Lanez versus Megan Thee Stallion. I just want us to just take a moment to understand that Megan is not on trial, and Megan is not the one putting Tory Lanez in trial. It is the city, it is the defense, it is the people, it is the prosecution. They are going after Tory Lanez for what he did to Meg Thee Stallion. So this Kramer versus Kramer mentality y'all think this is, it is not that. It is so nasty how this black woman, right, is being put in a position where she is being put up in the court of public opinion. Everything from who she may or may not have slept with, who she had a relationship with, who she didn't have a relationship with. All of this has nothing to do with the fact that this man is being alleged of shooting her. Now, we know she has that best friend, Kelsey. And let me tell you something. That ex-best friend is the type of friend you don't want. Kelsey Morgan, whoever that is the worst best friend for all that Meg did for that girl, right? That girl needed a job. They were friends in college. This is a Houston H-Town tragedy. This woman sat up here and she recanted testimony in a September deposition where she was basically accusing Tory Lanez of a lot of things and standing by and defending a lot of the things that was said that Meg had said. Then she turns around and she reneges on some of those points, and it's created a lot of confusion. But at the end of the day, there was speculation that, maybe she was the one who shot Meg back in 2020. But what we have found out is that actually, no, it was not Kelsey who did it. Kelsey said she didn't do it. And it's becoming very clear that it's only one person that night who could have did it. And that was Tory Lanez. And it's getting weird because there's talking about DNA inconclusive. It doesn't say his DNA is not on the gun, but there is gun residue. So he was around the smoke. And I'm just thinking to myself, we know Meg didn't shoot herself. Kelsey isn't the one up on the stand for it. Who else was there? We know it was none other than Tory Lanez. So I just don't know what the debate is, but I just know that I just hope it's a fair and speedy trial. I think that in the end, I think Meg Thee Stallion is going to come out victorious in this. And when she do, I just want all of us to remember the men, okay, that did not stand beside her. The men in hip hop, the media in hip hop, who has ran salacious tabloid fodder after tabloid fodder against her. I got to. 50 Cent, trying to, equate her to Jussie Smollett. You got Joe Budden, moving the conversation into an ad hominem attack about her as a person, even though he claims he doesn't know her, but he wants to assassinate her character. Like, a man who's been accused of beating women. Like, notice that the men who are speaking have been men who've been accused of being abusers or big-ass misogynist pigs or homophobes. Like, it's none of these men are, like, great men. You got Drake throwing shots. I know, Drake, you're not talking, you creep. Like, you got all these people throwing these shots and doing this stuff to Meg. And it's like, for what? And then you got the Shade Room who keeps flopping ass, bitching on the publication. You got these blogs. You got DJ Academics, squirrel-looking ass. You got all these people that are just consistently putting out misinformation, misleading information. The Shade Room, my God. These are not credible sources. This is not journalism. This is blogs. This is tabloid fodder. And you know what's interesting enough is that it's reminding me, because I watched the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix, so I'm going to say about part 2 later in the podcast, but it started to remind me of how the tabloids and the British tabloids and press attacked Meghan Markle. Like how they completely spun the narrative and put out salacious fake news about her day in and day out. It's baffling to me. And so, I wrote this great piece for the Daily Beast that talked about those parallels. That there has been a campaign, an active campaign against Megan Thee Stallion the moment she came forward and accused Tory Lanez of shooting her. And they've never stopped. They've never stopped. I mean, they're letting the lawyer go up and talk about possible men. This is all irrelevant to the case. What does that have to do with that man shooting? No one is even questioning motive more so than they're questioning the fact that he actually do it. And I think he did. I believe her. I stand with her. And for all of this, believe black women, stand by black women, protect black women, you weakest link motherfuckers continue to do the goddamn opposite. Men, cishet men specifically, have flopped. I believe it. There was an article in The Cut that said men flopped badly in 2022. Cishet men have flopped badly in 2022, okay? When you look at all of the royals and the Drakes of the world, these athletes, Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, Elon Musk, they're flopping. Van Jones, men flopped badly. Cishet men flopped badly in 2022. I just want you to know that. Like, they suck. And this is another reminder of how much they suck. So, justice for Meg. Swift and pure. Justice for Megan Thee Stallion. We stand with Meg, or Ernestly speaking. Next case. So in some other news, Wallow is back. Yes, I saw Wallow 267, y'all. So this previous week, the city, Kenyatta Johnson did go ahead and give him the resolution. Last week, we reported that the resolution was to be scheduled for the previous week before then, but they decided to do it the following week, and they did not do it in City Hall chambers. They took it to the mayor's chambers in a private reception space, and it was a spectacle. But, at the end of the day, Philadelphia's going to do what Philadelphia's going to do. You know what I'm saying? One would just hope that this brother means well and try to do better. He made some tweets, interesting enough, recently asking Target if they were open on Christmas Day because he wanted to do something. Yeah, y'all, another one of those stunts. Well, the funny thing is that Target actually responded back to him on Twitter and said, no, they're not open on Christmas. Well, that's good. And they're probably not open on New Year's either, dude. So whatever you're doing, just, do less. So I thought I was going to rest of the mayor's stuff, but I had to talk about this situation. And y'all know, anybody in Philadelphia who's been following the mayor's race, I'm just going to put it like this, okay, with the mayor's race. Y'all, Almond Brown has officially announced he's running for mayor. He did so this past Friday. But immediately after he announced he was running for mayor, he got himself in some sticky situation. He did an interview on Fox News, Fox 29, or Fox 26. That's how much I was in local news. But he did an interview, and it just was bad. It was bad. It just wasn't good. There was an interview he did with this really known journalist and anchor at at Fox. And he basically, said that, he basically put out in his interview that they asked him about the budget. He's 35 years old. He's a father of two. But he was asked about the budget and what he would do with the budget. And this now brings him to, he's the 9th candidate that is now running into this hat. He was interviewed by Jeff Cole. And if y'all know Jeff Cole don't play, right? They say Jeff Cole asks gotcha questions, and that's, what he do. But to be honest, he was asking him what the budget was, right? He specifically, asked him about what the budget is. And he said, quote, well, how big is the budget in the city of Philadelphia? What's the number? He asked him. And Almond Brown said, it's about $15 billion. And Cole said $5.6 billion. And then he said 5.6 question mark, like what question he asked. And Cole said, yeah, city budget, it's about 5.6 billion, he said. And he responds back, city budget is that low? Okay, maybe 6. Can you ask that over? Which, of course, that did not happen. For clarity, Mayor Jim Kenney proposed a budget of $5.6 billion recently. City Council passed on a $5.8 billion in spending. Brown says he misread the information given to him on spending and argues that he's ready to be mayor. He says the size of the city budget isn't that important. Aren't these things you should know? This is what Cole asked him. And he responded back, yes, I should know. And the team I'm going to have around me will make sure I'm brought up to speed on things. Wait, what? So I'm just, it was a gaffe. It was a major gaffe. And people are saying online and social media that this should be the end of him. It should be over. Personally, let me be transparent. I think there's a lot of people, including him, that just should not run for mayor. Not because of this gaffe, but just in my opinion, I just feel like this is why, right? Because I don't think Jeff Brown should run for mayor. I don't. He's never had any political experience. I think Almond Brown personally has too little experience to be run for mayor. Now, if he had served in city council or maybe had some previous citywide seat, like city controller perhaps, or anything else, then maybe I could see the case there. However, you just only served 2 terms as a state rep. The Harrisburg budget in politics and swagger of Harrisburg is not the same as Philadelphia's. And, to be honest, it's obvious that there's a lot of, developer money driving his campaign. And that's posing some legitimate questions. So while he wants to run, he can, but I don't think this gaffe is it. But, there's been some comparisons. Michael Cord, Esquire, compared to Herschel Walker. I thought that was a little far-fetched. I'm not going to pretend that, I don't know this man. I don't think he's a Herschel Walker by any stretch of the imagination, But I do think that if you're going to run for mayor, you need to run for mayor. If you're going to run for mayor, which he did put out a statement and he took accountability, and that was admirable of him. Like, listen, his team was working overtime during the weekend. His people did put out a response. They tried to clarify it by saying they included other departments within the city's budget to get to that $16 billion, which is roughly close to $15 billion, he said. And so they were, I guess, including like the school district and other things. But, tomato, the city budget is not encompassing of the entire city's budget overall. It's the budget that the council passes, the one that the mayor oversees. So if you're running for mayor, you should be focused on the budget that you are proposing, because that is the budget of the city. Like, I'm not trying to get to semantics, but that is the budget, right? And that's the budget you can control, So I hear that, but I don't hear that. And it just seems to me that who's your team? You got to tighten up, if you want to run, seriously. But, I want to add, though, that some of these politicians, because I'm going to have to say some things, right? They're sending these posts. They're messy as hell. I want to tell you ain't got no friends in politics, really. You may got a couple of friends, but some of your state rep colleagues, some of your other colleagues across the political aisle, they messy as hell. I can't tell you how many of them sent it to me directly. Now, some of them, you probably know don't like you, but some of them, they a little fake. You know, they were gassing up this. But, you know, you had some big names like Patty Jackson who just spoke out about it. Like, Patty is just not here for Miss Patty Jackson. You know, that's my girl. That's my mentor. That's Auntie Patty for me. She not here for it. She like, this don't make no sense. And then Michael Cora, who's also, you know, someone I'm really cool with, you know, he doesn't, you know, he just was concerned. It is a noticeable gap. I mean, it reminds me of the Sarah Palin gap where she said she could see Russia from her house. But to be honest, y'all, the way that this race is shaping up, there are people that's going to die on the vine and support who they like and who they love regardless, right? Sheriff Jewel Williams had all of those sexual harassment allegations, y'all. And there was still a contingency of black women in Philadelphia calling themselves sisters for Jewel Williams that stood beside him no matter what. It reminds you of that little cult group of people that like R. Kelly will still defend R. Kelly and show for R. Kelly in spite of all of his convictions. It's like that for candidates. So if you think that the people that are laughing at this gaffe by Amin was never going to vote for Amin Brown to begin with, and his base of supporters are not rethinking whether they should support him not based on this. This did not change anything. Like, welcome to politics. And to also be clear, I know for a fact that there's a lot of people in Philadelphia government that does not know the city's budget. I think most people, unless they are, you know, the city controller where they are actually looking at that stuff every day, or they're elected to city council, most of those people don't even know that stuff. I spoke to some city council people that felt like when they saw the interview, it made them want to brush up on their skills about certain details. Like, you know, what's the percentage of black people in Philadelphia? Do they know the percentage of black folks in Philadelphia? Do they know the percentage of people in poverty in Philadelphia? Like, I wonder if you just ran up on these politicians and asked them these questions, they couldn't answer them. You know how I know? Because I do it all the time. Okay? There's a lot of dumbness to be spread around here. Okay? There's a lot of dumbness to be spread around in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. So for all these little politicians like to throw them little stones, y'all, some of y'all do not have all them screws tied up back there. Let's not act like Amin Brown's little gaffe is like literally the thing that is the ultimate, like, y'all, please. Like, it is something. But the dog pile and I see some of these people do, I'm just like, oh my God. Can we, like, make it through Christmas and Can we please, like not kick the dead horse so much that we just exhaust the people? Like, I'm trying not to exhaust the people. Because voters will see, listen, I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. Be fucking careful, progressives. If you bully and bulldoze this man, this black man in Philadelphia, when there is a wide swath of black voters who do not give a fuck about progressives, if you continue to really come at this guy in this way, you're going to amplify his presence. He's going to be bigger than what he may be politically, and you might actually make this guy a real contender to run. You know how I know? 2 words: Donald Trump. Herschel Walker. When you look at it, that fucking race in Georgia was too damn close. When they was coming at Herschel that way, it was interesting because people doubled down even more. They even went even harder for him because they wanted to protect him. You might get some hoteps out here that might go hard in the paint for Amin if they feel like y'all going after a young black man too hard. So you got to find that balance between being objective or having critical thinking, or just having some racial animus and bias that might turn this into a different conversation. Because I'm going to keep it 100. Some of y'all who were big Kenny supporters, when Kenny fucked up and said what he said about ready to leave as mayor, y'all didn't have that same smoke for him like y'all having for Amin right now. So I'm just trying to point out the racial bias here. Some of y'all stayed silent on the Kenny thing or was quick to defend Kenny. Just saying. Keep that same energy. Because I'm keeping that same energy. Kenny was dumb for what he said. Amin, that was dumb as fuck, right? Like, I can be an equal opportunity offender. But some of y'all get a little biased, and I'm seeing it. And voters are seeing it. Because when I go to these barbershops, and I'm talking to black voters at these barbershops on a local level, homeowners and people, they are resonating with Amin Brown talking about public safety. Now, I think those public safety... I can't get down with that public safety plan. I think all that pro-cop shit that he talking and doing, that's a no for me, dog, personally. But let's talk about the policies. Let's talk about the real issues. Because if we get caught up in the gaffes and stuff, what's going to end up happening is it's just not going to be what you think it's going to be. It's going to create the opposite reaction. Barbara Streisand's effect, okay? Just saying. So, that's that. Now, moving along, I want to talk about these Golden Globe nominations. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of buzz about the Golden Globe nominations. I'm a film fan, and you all saw the Golden Globe nominations, and I was a little sad because my fave, Keke Palmer, did not get nominated for Best Supporting Actress or Best Actress for her role in Nope. And the funny thing is, she followed me on Twitter this week. I'm so excited. I love Keke Palmer. I got to meet her before and actually interview her on a radio show I did when I was in college at Penn during the 2012 Obama election, re-election, right? And I was interviewing surrogates, and she was one of them. I interviewed her on my on my radio show, Ernestly Speaking. Yes, but I had Ernestly Speaking at Penn at WQHS. That was like 10 years ago. And then I met her at the BET Awards in 2014, and I've just been, in awe. Like, Keke is like a legend, okay? She's a millennial legend. And, she just won the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Supporting Actress for Nope. And I thought maybe the Golden Globes would show her love, and they didn't for Nope. But I'm really, really proud of her, and I'm just like, yay. But other snubs that stood out to me. So Danielle Deadwater, who was in Till, okay, played Mammy Till. We thought that Best Actress nomination was going to happen at the Golden Globes. It didn't. I was shocked. I thought I called it. I mean, she's been doing good across the board. She didn't win. I mean, she didn't get nominated. Brendan Fraser, surprisingly, got nominated. I thought there were going to be haters on him. They still nominated for The Well. The Banshees of Inisherin was nominated for the most nomination for film. Abbott Elementary was nominated for the most TV categories. I mean, our people, right? Quinetta Brunson got nominated for Best Actress. Who else? Oh my goodness. Tyler James Williams got nominated. Shirley Ralph, my fave, Miss Eva Coleman, she got nominated. Which is her real name is Eva Coleman. I always call her Eva Coleman because that's the principal, man. She's the boss. But she's great. She's incredible. I just really love this this whole Abbott Elementary love. I feel like it's been interesting for a while to see a show like this. So Janelle James is her name. Yes, Ava. It's Ava Coleman, not Eva Coleman. Ava Coleman. Janelle James plays her, and I love Janelle James. She's just like awesome. But the black cast of Abbott Elementary got the nomination. So Tyler James Williams, Janelle James, and Shirley Ralph got in the supporting categories, and Quinetta Brunson got in the lead categories. The White Lotus, which I watched, I have thoughts about White Lotus. I watched it. Yes, Amanda, I watched the whole series. I have thoughts about it. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But they were nominated in the acting categories. Shout out to Viola Davis. She got nominated for The Woman King, which was super exciting. I was so happy about that. Emancipation, Will Smith got snubbed. It got snubbed, y'all. And Jamie Lee Curtis, she got Best Supporting Actress nomination for Everything Everywhere All at Once, along with Michelle Yeoh. Very great. And also the other actor, the supporting actor category, he got nominated too. So there's like 3 acting categories for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is my personal favorite film for 2022. Personally, my personal best picture. The Fabelmans got nominated. Tar got nominated. Avatar, The Way of Water got nominated for Best Picture alongside Top Gun, Maverick. And Tom Cruise did not get nominated, and people thought he was for Best Actor. But you got to remember, Tom Cruise protested the diversity issues at the Golden Globes by giving back all 3 of his Golden Globe Awards. So that might be a situation. But it's going to be televised this year. It's going to be back on TV, which is a really good deal. And there's a lot of changes. Eddie Murphy is getting the Cecil B. DeMille Awards, which is awesome. The 80th Golden Globe Awards is shaping up. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to show up and show out, what it's going to look like, but it's going to be in January. So, it's going to be a show. It's going to definitely be a show. It's coming soon. It's going to be on NBC, January 10th, which is actually my mother's birthday. So I'm gonna be like, I love you, Mom, but I'm watching the Golden Globes. But it's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and on NBC. 80th anniversary. And Eddie Murphy is getting the Cecil B. DeMille Award, which is like a Lifetime Achievement Award, which is pretty impressive. So I love it. I love it. Love to see it. We love to see it. Yeah. But yes. So another news, just to lighten the mood with light pettiness, Bow Wow and Jermaine Dupri are beefing right now. Are having some beefing right now. Jermaine Dupri is going out on the blog saying that he created 106 in Park and it was because of Bow Wow. Well, Bow Wow stepped up and said, JD ain't create 106 in Park, stop the cap. Stevie Hill and Rick Grimes and all the great people in the BT office and staff create that show. All I did was capitalize off of what they created and made it mine. I would know I am Mr. 106 in Park, which is true. I would never take away from someone's creativity. So yeah, I don't know why this is a debate. He said, I wish he'd just do his own thing without having to bring me up. I wish dude the best of luck in his career. And in life, we did some amazing things, but that chapter is closed. Wow. So yeah, it's true. I mean, Bow Wow has had his own issues in his career, but I do think it is important to note that, like, at the end of the day, do we really believe that Jermaine Dupri created 106 Park? I mean, y'all, for some of y'all, if y'all don't know anything about 106 Park, if they don't know about 106 Park, they're too young for you, okay? That goes for all the grown-ups listening to my podcast, okay? But yeah, 106 in Park was an iconic show, and Bow Wow hosted 106 Park, but he was known for having the #1 video and always have his music videos on 106. I mean, he was dope. Man, I miss great TV. Remember TRL, y'all? Oh my goodness. Great TV, great moments. So in movies that I watched this week, I watched Avatar, The Way of Water in 3D. It's a box office smash. It raised some good money, millions of dollars, over $130 million at the box office. And it looks like it's going to keep doing well because, the movie is 3 hours long. And it's first of all, it's long, but I enjoyed it watching it in 3D. That took it to the next level. I found the film fun. It was a great story. Definitely thought the storyteller was better than the first one. And it's just a movie experience, right? A lot of people was just going to say, was it going to be worth the hype or the wait? To be honest, yeah, it was cool. It was a great sequel. I thought the sequel was better than the original film, and it had more in-depthness and timeliness. Thought it was dope. Kate Winslet had a voice role in it, which, I love Kate Winslet, so that was pretty cool. I didn't even recognize it at first when I first saw the film. But it's long. And so what I did was I got to see an early screening of the film the day before it was released publicly at 3 p.m. And I was out of the theater by around 6:30ish. So it is some time. If, I went by myself because Mr. Johnson, I know he would have been snoring his ass off. Because we used to go to movies at midnight because we wanted to be the first to see a movie. But what we're starting to do now is try to do an earlier screening if we can, before the crazies, before the crowds, before the noise, so that we can beat the rush. So that, number one, he doesn't fall asleep. Number two, we don't be up super, super late for those films. So I knew that I was not going to go to the 9 o'clock screening or the 10 o'clock screening, because that's like, you out at midnight, 1 o'clock, it's too late, right? And then if you already you get the itis. I just wasn't going to do it. So I went from 3 to 6, which was like a really beautiful time to see the film. I highly recommend a Saturday matinee. Like, go at 11, get out at 2, go at noon. And I know a lot of people are going to do that. I know I think my brother is doing that, but that movie is long as hell, but it's worth it, y'all. It is a good movie experience. James Cameron can direct his ass off. He got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Director, Best Film, Best Visual Effects. I think I see that happening at the Oscars for Way of Water. I don't know if it's going to win Best Picture. I don't think it is. But I could see it getting in the virtual visual effects and sound effects thing. I definitely could see that. So yeah, it was good. It was a great film. And yeah, I recommend it. HBO Max has The Banshees of Ernestly. I'm gonna keep it's Irish. The film is an Irish film. Funny, interesting film. Was not what I expected it to be, and that's not a bad thing. It actually was surprisingly better than what I initially thought. It is a very crafty, witty type of film, quirky and clever. The acting is superb. Colin Firth, I got my wrong Collins wrong. Colin Farrell, man, this man, he's getting better in his acting. I remember when Colin Farrell was not taken seriously, as an actor. You know, he never really had that many serious roles, and when he did, he never really did well in them, or he was upstaged by other actors. He's always a popular actor, very hot. I mean, he's a good-looking man. He's 46 too. So he's never been nominated for an Oscar. I mean, he's never won an Oscar, been nominated for an Oscar. But lately he's been taking on some stronger films, some better roles. You know, he was in The Lobster. He was in True Detectives. He was in Bruges. He's been doing some really good roles. He won a Golden Globe for In Bruges, which was with co-star in this recent film, Brendan Gleeson, who is also, I believe, they're not British. They're Scottish, Irish. They're Irish actors, but their accents are great. They both got nominated for Golden Globes, along with two other cast members of this film, this recent film, the Banshees of Inisherin. You should watch it. It's on HBO Max right now. I think it's only going to be on for a limited time. Please check it out. I definitely have been hearing Best Picture raves. I do think it's a Best Picture contender with The Fabelmans. But a lot of people are liking it. This could be the next Best Picture. The director who directed this film, he directed 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. So don't sleep on this director. He's definitely have won some pretty good work. He's definitely, his name is Martin McDonald. I think he's also Irish, but he's very popular. So I would highly recommend, you all supporting him. The other actors in the film that did some great work was Kerry Condon, who was just incredible, and I definitely can see her getting a Best Supporting Actress nomination at the Oscars. And Barry Keoghan, who is a standout breakthrough performance from him, and he also got a Golden Globe nomination as well. So they got a packed cast, 4 of their cast members, really strong ensemble of actors, and just great fun. Lots of Irish accents. So they were like, "Are you rolling? Are you rolling? Are you rolling? Are you fucking mad? He's fucking mad, not fucking mad, fucking mad." So it's just a lot of great accents and just fun. Yeah, very good. And Colin Farrell, I'm telling you, Colin Farrell, people are suggesting he might be the one that's going to pull that upset and win the Oscar for Best Actor. I mean, people were talking about Brendan Fraser in The Lobster, but I'm hearing an uptick in interest in Colin Farrell. He's been getting a lot of Critics' Choice Awards and wins across, some really great Critics Awards and things, and lots of praise. And it would be nice to see him get a first-time nomination, a first-time win, but so does Brendan Fraser. I'm team Brendan Fraser. I kind of like Brendan Fraser more. I'm rooting for him. His story is unique. I mean, remember The Mummy, y'all? Remember George of the Jungle when he was like hot? But I just, I love Brendan Fraser, and I think that he deserves it more. But we'll see, but Colin Farrell getting it, that's possible. So to both of them. Now, to some good ass TV. I've been watching some good TV, y'all. And I don't know where to start. So I'll start with The White Lotus, okay? Sicily. They was in Sicily this season. It was good, but I'm going to be real with you. I like the first season better. I like the first White Lotus. I thought that this White Lotus was just way too white for my taste. I thought the storyline was cool, unique, but I just found the first one to be more exciting and charming and more witty. And I think that was because there was more diversity. There was like an American landscape of commentary. I mean, whiteness does get explored in this European context. But I just felt like it was super white, and it was just, there was some interesting weird moments, but it just felt like, okay. It was good. I appreciate them having only a few episodes. It wasn't like drawn out to like 13 episodes like some of these shows. So I do appreciate the briefness and brevity of it. And there was some great acting, and some great return acting, But, Audrey Plaza was fun. The actress was annoying as hell. but it was good. But I just miss the ensembleness of all the characters. There was a lot of decompartmentalized storylines that did cross intercept, but it was just kind of like very broiness and like all these men and everything was about sex and masculinity in this way. Versus last season, there was just different conversations about class and wealth inequity and conversations about race that was just more diverse and obvious in ways that this just wasn't. Mike White did a good job. It's going to get a lot of praise. People really do love the series, but I just felt the other one was stronger, in my opinion. But there was some, oh my God, what the fuck moments for sure. But I just felt like the first one was much stronger, in my opinion. Harry and Meghan, I finished part 2 of the series, which were the last 3 episodes of the six-part documentary series. Great, it was good. A lot of it, was the second half I found to be the more compelling part. The first part was, I guess maybe because they were just giving us a history. So if you already kind of know about the royal family, like I do, you kind of felt like it was a recanted history story. But that second part, y'all, that's the one that takes the cake. That's the one that everyone should be talking about because you really get into how this relationship broke down. And I believe Harry and Meghan. Like, I believe them because of just how the suspicious behavior of the family, the tabloids, the British press, and how they were just attacking Meghan and just a lot of the comparisons of how the media treated, Prince Charles's, or Prince William's wife, Kate Middleton, compared to Meghan Markle for the same issues. The Duchess of Sussex couldn't get a break, and it was very obvious in the narratives that was being crafted around her. So I really liked it. The Tyler Perry, it was at times a little cringy, but I must say that in this particular situation, in spite of him being a little clout chasey with this, he took care of them. And it was nice of what he did. Tyler Perry did a nice thing. If only his movies are better, right? Because he's got movies he's trying to do about black women in World War II or some stuff. Leave black women alone in film, Tyler. Just leave him alone. Stop doing it. Cut his, and now there's a new streaming service that's working on them. He keeps jumping from streaming service to streaming service to do these projects. I guess people are recognizing him or whatever. So, I don't know if it's Peacock. I don't know who he got a new deal with, but he's making money, making millions, and the haters are like, but he making money though. I guess he is. Whatever. Money isn't everything though, but okay. Yeah, but overall, I thought it was good. I really felt like the story is great. I'm gonna need Meghan Markle though to have some black friends outside of Serena Williams. I know y'all all are super rich and powerful, but I need you to have some black friends, some homegirls. Some people, some black men, outside of Tyler Perry and Serena Williams. I just need some other people. They made Tyler Perry the godfather of children. At the end of the day, look, I guess I get it, Just hopefully he don't try to make a movie about them and just not. We don't want to see Meghan Markle in a bad wig. Now, if you want to do Queen Elizabeth that way, listen, her wigs have, Her Majesty is deceased. Let me not speak ill of the dead. Well, whatever. Colonizers be made. The wigs on her head, if there were wigs, them, whatever you want to do with them wigs is fine, the royal family, okay? But y'all not going to come from Meghan Markle, and y'all not going to do her mother wrong with a bad wig, Tyler. That black mother deserves better. So if y'all are doing a movie, do not have Tyler Perry. Let Tyler Perry be like an executive producer, but don't let him direct it, and don't let him cast it, please. That's all. Speaking of clout chasing, this whole Jason Lee thing, I don't know what Rihanna's been doing. I love Rihanna. I'm going to stick beside her regardless. But these latest moves by Rihanna has been making me, the Super Bowl thing, the Johnny Depp fashion show appearance, just A$AP Rocky in general. Just some of these decisions, it's just, why? So lately, it came out that she allowed Jason Lee from Hollywood Unlocked to be the first to, quote unquote, break the photo of her baby with A$AP. The baby is beautiful. And A$AP, got a chance. They showed the picture. Now that baby looks just like Rihanna. And it's adorable. But it's just interesting to me because I'm just like, why was this a story? Now apparently, her baby boy, right? So there's several things that's weird. He says he was the first to share the photos But apparently, Rihanna was the one who jumped ahead and shared the photos with her baby in a TikTok video, which I believe was before Hollywood Unlocked. But Hollywood Unlocked had a photo, a really good photo, right? And apparently claimed that Rihanna's, FaceTime Tim, which I'm not going to believe it is or isn't. But like, he's like, oh, she wanted me to be the first to put this out, and we was the first to break these photos. And it's like, what are you doing? First of all, the fact that anyone has to break anybody's pictures and kids, and people were like, online was like, well, what did you, he must have something on her. I don't know what the relationship is, but I just find this all just tacky. I mean, for starters, just celebrity culture is just weird. So, okay, so you found out that paparazzi is going to leak photos of your baby. If I knew that, I would do it the Beyonce way. And I don't like to compare Rihanna to Beyonce, but in this situation, I am. Rather than have someone else leak photos or put the photos out, why don't you just put the photos yourself? Like, Rihanna has more social media followers than anything that Jason Lee got going on. Wouldn't that be the official place to drop all news and information, Rihanna? Like, wouldn't that be the best place? You and A$AP together could have did a joint share Instagram, because you can now do joint posts now, and y'all could have just both shared it to y'all respective followers and let everybody talk. But to just give it to Jason Lee, I just thought that was weird, personally. I don't know, because now all he's been doing is just making this even bigger. And he's like, y'all, Rihanna gave this to us. She's a real one. Yeah, we actually knew that already, Jason. We all know Rihanna's a real one. What we don't know is why she gave it to a fake ass person like yourself. But I digress. I don't know. I just feel like he, I mean, he's not a journalist. Let's be clear. I mean, it's obvious he's not a journalist. I mean, the way that he is entangled with these celebrities for these types of situations and all of that is ridiculous. I mean, one ridiculous thing, too, was the White House. They invited him and people from the Breakfast Club and these publications, these blog publications and sites to come to the White House, I guess, for holiday party. I don't know. I guess the White House been letting everybody come to the party. They've been having all these people at the White House. Everybody been at the White House this year. I mean, for the holiday parties. I mean, I guess it's a thing. But, I digress. I'm just, Rihanna, I just want better for you, baby. I just want better for you. I love you too much. I want better for you. Now, I must say, I will not get into details about it because it just came out. But if you're on HBO Max, you better watch that HBO Max documentary, the Miss Cleo documentary that just came out. Highly recommend it. I will not talk about the details, but I have a different perspective about Miss Cleo now. Okay? All right. I just have a different perspective about Miss Cleo. It's not all good, but there's something there. But I must say that Miss Cleo is a fascinating person. That documentary and all the people who make appearances, I was impressed. So I recommend you all watch on HBO Max. But in other news about HBO Max, I've been really frustrated by the way that they've been making some major cuts. And part of this is because this Warner Brothers deal they have where what I've been hearing is that a lot of shows are not coming back. I don't know what shows are. It's so many shows that are being cut and not being renewed for another season over there, HBO Max. And like, for example, there's this show called Love Life that just got cut. And it was just like in season 2 and people was really loving that show. There was this show called Gordita. It was a Latinx show and programming they had, but they're just making a lot of massive cuts over there at HBO Max. Just kind of a lot of shows. And a lot of these shows was meant to bring diversity and value to the platform. This Warner Brothers deal is that people are like, well, why are they not only are they not renewing seasons, but they're actually cutting the shows all together. Like, they're cutting them and taking them off the platform. So all that money they spent on this intellectual property, they're also just not even running them. And I found out part of the reason why is because with this Warner Brothers, merger, apparently if you keep these shows on running, right, even after they've been canceled, all of the producers, the creators, and staff are given royalties as part of an equitable dealing that they have. So, like, let's say, for example, The Sopranos stops running. Like, they stopped. We know The Sopranos is no longer on HBO. I mean, let me clarify that. It is still on HBO Max. But let's just say The Sopranos we know The Sopranos is not running, The Sopranos is not running certain shows, right? The show hasn't continued. What happens is that they still are out here getting checks. Like, Michael Imperiano, the family of, Michael Gandalf and all of them. Like, that cast, Edie Falco, like, all of them are still getting money and residuals and royalties from that show. James Gandolfini, who's who I was talking about, who was the lead of Tony Soprano. Like, those families, all of them are still getting those royalties. Now, let me be clear, HBO Max has not taken off The Sopranos. But let's say they did. When they do that, that means that the royalties stop because there's no syndication or run of it. So the syndication, whether streaming or on TV, is what keeps checks in their pockets. People like Martin Lawrence is still getting money. Okay, still getting money from Martin. I mean, Tisha Campbell, I know she getting checks because she getting checks from shows, all the shows she was in. She's getting checks for shows like Martin, but she's also getting checks for, My Wife and Kids. Because she was in both of those shows as a lead actress. And I think both of those shows are running in syndication somewhere right now. She getting 2 checks. And she don't even got to do any more acting. I mean, she still is. She shouldn't be singing no more. But she is still here. If you get that joke, clap. But she's getting residuals. These other actors, now that they've taken these shows off, they're not going to get those residuals. And it seems like a lot of new shows are getting the axe versus these old, HBO shows that have been, widely popular, right? Because they know that people are still watching The Sopranos. People are still going to be watching Game of Thrones. And that is like what keeps their streaming. Now, those are deal breakers. You take Game of Thrones off of HBO or The Sopranos, some people will definitely say bye-bye, right? But some of these other little shows that just got like 1 season, 2 seasons, they know that people are not going to die on that hill for the most part. So I'm noticing that type of behavior happening over there. But all I got to say is like, HBO, come on. These mergers are really killing and impacting and negatively impacting the business. But yeah, it's just too many streaming platforms. Every time I turn around, someone told me something called MGM Plus or something that's coming around. It's replacing Epix, and there's going to be a streaming platform called MGM. Like, what? They don't need to do, whatever. So I say all to say, HBO Max, get your stuff together. Now, as far as myself, I'll be gearing up to go to Texas this week. I'll be in H-Town, okay? And we will be doing the podcast. I will still be doing my podcast because, we're close to episode 100. So I will be doing episode 99, technically, of the entire series. I'll be doing episode 99 next week and then episode 100 before the new year. And we out, y'all. We're going to be done. Yes, it's the finale. It's like we're close to finishing up season 3. Season 4, of course, is going to premiere in January. Which, is going to be exciting, but, we are going to be doing it remotely. So I will be doing my podcast, in Houston. So it will be a fun podcast. We'll be, of course, talking about, what's going on in Philly, a little bit what is going on in Philly, but it's going to be a fun episode. So until then, as always, happy holidays. Have a good time. We'll see each other soon. And as always, be well and be back. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.